You guys remember?
Yes, your bachelor party.
My bachelor party. And the worst sunburn that we all three experienced separately. We were all experiencing because we had the bachelor party, but it was a cloudy day on the lake. So none of us put on any type of sunscreen.
Nope.
And we all suffered for days.
That was the
Marcus,
worst.
You almost went to the hospital.
That was the worst I've ever felt.
Marcus had to sleep.
I
Sitting up
I
with
slept
a fan.
sitting up. I can't quite do it right here, but
I remember your Uncle Jim saying something along the lines of, "Those UV rays come right through the clouds."
Welcome to The Cover, where three Hoosier friends judge books by their covers and movies by their trailers.
That's right. I'm Brett, here with my fellow Indiana natives, Remington and Marcus, ready to dive into the stories that keep us up all night and occasionally put us to sleep.
whether you're a bookworm, movie buff, or just here for the witty banter, we've got you covered.
Each week, we'll dissect a different book or movie, sharing fun facts, hot takes, and moments that make Marcus cry. Spoiler alert, we're not experts, but we're definitely opinionated.
From literary masterpieces to blockbuster flops, nothing is safe from our snarky reviews and wild tangents. Who knew Hoosiers could be this entertaining?
So grab your popcorn and reading glasses because we're about to embark on a hilarious journey through the pages and screens that shape our lives. Or at least our weekends.
You're listening to The Cover. Let's get the show on the road before one of our kids wakes up. We're all supposed to do it?
1, 2, 3. Marcus didn't do it. 1, 2, 3. You're so lame. All right.
I'm going to ruin it if I... Whatever. Let's go.
All right. The Cover. Here we are. My friends Remington, Marcus.
New studio.
New studio.
Episode 2, we dropped some cash.
Clearly we're recording. We didn't just put that up with 2 different nails and there aren't 4 different holes in that.
I don't
right
actually
there.
think you can see what it says in the video.
Rem uses power tools so often that his wife didn't just run downstairs when she heard him using one.
Hey.
Well, I thought it was funny that he was using a hammer, and she said, "I heard him using power tools."
Oh wait, so you really didn't have a drill or anything at any point?
She heard me with the drill in,
Oh, got it. Okay.
in the garage.
Never mind.
Is Chris here again?
Okay, so our subject tonight, whenever you're listening, is one of my favorite book experiences I've ever had.
Yes.
For sure.
Definitely.
Dave Grohl, the Storyteller. And before we get into Dave, what's new, boys? What do we got going on? What's happening?
What is new? I'm flying this week.
Oh, where are you flying?
Dallas.
Dallas. It's a popular spot for your
It's good for
shindigs.
Indy, I'll tell you that much, because it's direct. Indy kind of sucks with
Indy,
flights.
it's
Getting better, but
not a
still
direct.
sucks.
You think getting better?
Yeah.
What's getting better? Like the more cities that you can fly direct to?
Yeah.
Like what?
I don't know. I just know that they keep adding more.
I don't feel like it's getting better. Not to the
You
places
fly
that-
more than me.
The only place I've gone
We used to
direct-
fly together all the time. You guys remember that? Those were the days.
Man, it was fun. But it was always. But with our crew,
That's the opposite of what's new.
If we ever flew together, it was always for fun. Like it was never for a work.
True.
We always drove for work trips.
Oh, dude,
We
those
didn't
were
have money
actually
to fly.
Actually,
man.
some of this book reminded me a lot
Oh,
of our
dude.
trips that we used to
100%.
take to like Olean and Michigan.
Oh
and
man.
they were talking about being crammed in. I reminded me a lot of those
Oh,
old
man.
trips that we used to
For
have.
sure.
There are many stories. So Rem's flying. I'm busy season at work and going great. Big meeting tomorrow. Got people coming in from one of Marcus's roots of Evansville.
Yeah.
It'll be a little place of home forever in your heart, I think.
Purple
Evansville.
Cobras, baby.
Rem's Warsaw branch office might break his record and bring 1 rep to an event. It'll be great.
Hey. My Warsaw branch office won the August push, and we had 3 reps there.
That's true.
So
That's true.
just saying.
You finished strong. Marcus, what's going on? What's new?
Lots of softball. We I had to take over some coaching duties today during 10U, and we won. So
Nice.
Is that a coincidence? I don't know.
Fired
Maybe.
the coach.
My daughter, she only plays rec league. We don't do any all-stars or travel, even though they continue to ask. Because she's pretty good. But this was the first time that she got to play catcher. And she crushed it. So I was really, really proud of her.
This is Colby.
This is Colby. She played catcher.
How old is Colby now?
She's 10.
So does she... you don't throw out in softball.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You do.
Oh, yeah. You can't lead in softball. Softball, you cannot lead. So
They can steal, though.
even though it's shorter
And
bases,
so,
it's still-
so in 10U, you can throw them out. It's pretty rare that they'll throw them out because they're not going to steal if the ball doesn't get past them. So they don't throw them out too often. But the biggest key, the catcher's really important in 10U because, they'll just steal. They'll just get on first, steal, and
Keep
then
'em
a lot of
honest.
times steal home. So they only scored 1 run on her and the pitcher. So she's like best pitcher, best catcher, or best pitcher for the team. And then Colby is probably the best catcher on the team.
Catcher was my favorite
And it was her
position
first time.
in all of sports to play.
Is that why your knees don't work anymore?
It's more a shoulder thing from pitching.
Catcher's
It's a sore
awesome.
subject. Catcher
So-
is great.
Really, really proud of her. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. I have the, you guys both saw from softball this weekend with the girls, the most severe farmer's tank top tan I've ever experienced.
How about that Sun Smooth stuff, though? That stuff is legit.
Shout out Earthly. Find it on
Yes.
Amazon. It's got like
Could be a
It's got
sponsor.
like oatmeal or something. Is it oatmeal?
I have no
It's
idea.
like an aloe. It's like a...
It's-
No, dude, I
it's-
would not. You are offending it calling it aloe. It is like
it
it is
actually
like
works?
oatmeal. It's like oatmeal.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
It's so...
Wait, this reminds
Oatmeal
me.
is a really good way to describe it because it's like the consistency.
You guys remember
Yes. Your bachelor party.
my bachelor party and the worst sunburn that we all three experienced separately. We were all experiencing because we had the bachelor party, but it was a cloudy day
Yeah.
on the lake, so none of us put on any type of sunscreen,
Nope.
and we all suffered for days.
That was the
Marcus,
worst.
You almost went to the hospital.
That was the worst I've ever felt.
Marcus had to sleep.
I
Sitting
slept,
up
I
with
slept
a fan.
sitting up. I can't quite do it right here, but
I remember your Uncle Jim saying something along the lines of, "Those UV rays come right through the clouds."
You boys
I
should put
remember
on
like
sunscreen.
I remember my skin like itched and burned so much. I was like slapping it. To try to, like,
yeah, because it hurt if you tried to scratch.
oh, it's the worst.
It was like day 3, and I don't know who texted, but someone was like, "Did either of you get sunburned?" We're like, "Yeah." We're sending pictures of like dying.
Do you guys ever have to try to run an interview after a region trip where you got burnt wearing a suit?
Oh.
It is the worst. It's so horrible. And then you take off your suit at the end of the day, and it's just skin. everywhere.
Yeah, dead skin. Oh, that's disgusting.
It is. It's pretty gross. All right. We're going to cover the Storyteller.
Your transitions. are
Speaking of
so-
stories, speaking of stories,
Oh, man. Mr. Grohl. So, Rem, what'd you know about our
Dave
book
Grohl?
before? Yeah.
So, what I knew about him was a casual fan. I wasn't a big Foo Fighters fan. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I liked a couple of the songs. I really loved the story behind My Hero, and when Taylor's son plays on stage, like I've seen that video 100 times. It's like it makes me cry every time. But in terms of their music, like I wasn't a huge fan. But I just knew who he was. Obviously, I've seen him around a lot. But for years, he was just the guy from Nirvana, right? And what's interesting about this book, and I don't want to give away too much of my thoughts, but like, the fact that he calls it Storyteller, versus, Rockstar Diaries or whatever, like it really shows you like who he believes himself to be in this world, like much more than a musician.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, by far one of my favorite biographies that I've read, not just this last year, but just ever.
So your perception of Dave, for the most part, was Nirvana, a little bit of Foo Fighters, but nothing too deep.
Well, I thought he was really impressive. Right. I thought he was a super impressive musician that, broke all the records and everything like that. I wasn't a huge fan of the music. Now, since reading it, I've listened to a lot more, and I actually really, like his music. It's just, it was so much. It was just like Weezer. Like Weezer kept coming out with albums, so I had to become a casual fan because there's like 100 albums. And they all sound the same. So that's just how I felt about it.
I think the thing for a band that comes out with a lot of albums, you're gonna have a stinker.
Yeah,
like you're gonna have a bad one. So if you dabble with one of the bad ones, it's scary because you could ruin your perception of that. Like I think Foo Fighters, I believe one of their albums wasn't the best, but dude, their best of album with all their hits pre 2013 or something like that. Oh man, it's so
they're prolific. I mean, they've put a ton out.
Amazing.
I'd be curious. So you know less about music. Yeah. You're not like the biggest music guy.
Yeah.
What did you know about Dave?
I knew that he was the drummer for Nirvana. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I know who Nirvana is. Mm-hmm. I've heard some Nirvana songs, but to call myself a fan would have been disingenuous. And then I might have known 2 Foo Fighters songs.
Did you read this because we said you should read it?
No, I just got into these. I just got into listening to autobiographies.
That's right. You guys listened to this one.
Last year at some point in time, I listened to several in a row, and I'd heard that this was really good. Maybe it was you. I can't remember who said something, but I heard that it was really good. And I love, whether it's sports or learning about people in music or whatever, I love people who are watching people at their best. Like what does it take? Mm-hmm. What does it take to be the very best? Mm-hmm. And when I think about Dave Grohl, I think about one of the bests.
Yeah.
I can't.
Which is funny though,
like if he's the best drummer or whatever, but like that would have been my perception going in. Is he's one of the best drummers ever.
I mean, by midway through the book, when he's telling you how Paul McCartney is inviting him to play the drums, you're like, okay, this guy's one of the best ever.
It had to be. And self-taught. Incredible.
Yeah. What about you, Brett?
So for me, I'm a pretty big Foo Fighters fan. In my office for probably 3 years, we had Foo Fighters Fridays where we would just listen to the Foo Fighters best of album. And whoever was my pilot that year, my lead assistant, would grow by about June week 4 to hate the Foo Fighters.
It makes sense though. Like that's Brett's style of singing is just screaming the pitch.
I'd say that's also about as hardcore as I would get is Foo Fighters.
Foo Fighters,
sure.
Dave, if you're ever listening, not to say you're not hardcore, but that's Foo Fighters.
He's not metal, yeah.
And like, for me, knew the Nirvana connection way after I was a fan of Foo Fighters, though. That was not something.
Oh, that's interesting.
Foo Fighters. So to find that, I was like, whoa. And then I would say I'd heard the story of him re-recording all of the instruments on a certain album. Mm-hmm. I knew that. So I knew he was kind of, to your point about people being the best, it's like being hyper, just addictive to getting it right. And then I knew like just from like a couple of interviews that he was a deep dude, like more than a musician, to your point.
Right.
But that would be it. But I had been to 2 Foo Fighters concerts. I'm not a huge concert person, so...
You're not a huge concert person?
I bet those Foo Fighters concerts were loud.
So Ruoff, I guess the most popular venue by where we live, it's so big.
Yeah.
It's so big for an outdoor venue. It's so big that if you're not...
You can get away from the sound if you want?
Yeah, like you can get away from the craziness. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a blast. I can tell you I went to a Dave Matthews Band concert there and left halfway through. I think I was actually with you.
It rained the entire week before, and we were just soaking wet, sitting on the lawn.
Yeah, but also I realized, like, if I don't know all the words to a majority of the songs, I just don't have much fun.
I totally get that.
I just don't. I don't have much fun.
You know what stinks too is if you go to a concert that you end up loving their music after the fact, and then you listen to a bunch and you kind of miss out on the opportunity from that concert.
Yep.
I've done that a couple times.
Yep. I will say I do like the live versions of albums most of the time. Like any musician usually.
Just because they're real.
Dude, the live version's so
authentic.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah.
All right. So I would say Rem, as somebody, I'm surprised you knew as little as you did, because you're in a band regularly at church. You play. You're in the car in a Weezer. That surprises me. Marcus, right on point, I think is what I expected. And for me, I'm shocked.
I would probably know a lot less if I wasn't married to Jessica.
Ooh, Jessica does have a little bit of that rocker.
Oh,
side
like
to her.
yeah.
She
I
knows
mean, she
music.
basically like grew up with
Jessica's favorite
classic
bands.
classic rock and roll. and all
Early
kinds of
years,
stuff.
high school. Was she like death metal? Was she just?
I didn't know her then. So.
We might be talking about a different wife had he known her then.
Was she like emo? Was she like?
Oh, she was totally emo.
Who
Oh,
wasn't
that's
emo?
great.
Everyone went through an emo phase.
Nope, I looked basically the same as I do now. Just
Oh, I didn't say you didn't have to
Several
change
pounds.
how you looked, but listening to emo music, everyone had a little bit of emo.
Was
in them.
All American Rejects
Oh,
emo?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
yeah, totally.
yeah.
I would okay, so I would not consider Green Day emo. Emo people
It
would listen to
100%
Green Day.
you
is
ever
emo.
looked at
They're he's the face of emo.
Oh, dude, Green
Oh, my
Day
gosh.
Dookie was not an emo album.
Just because there was more whiny music out there did not
Let's
make
talk about Grohl.
Green Day.
All right, well, hey, you know,
Emo.
Grohl's not emo, although he's like a precursor, I guess, that like punk. It's the same
Possible.
thing. It's like teenage angst that they're.
Yeah, it's anger. It's punk.
you cannot make all teenage angst emo.
No, I'm
but
saying it's the
when
same
it came out
types
in the
of
90s
emotions
and early 2000s, that genre
that
of
drove
I don't
sound.
disagree.
that drove.
Speaking of teenage angst, any angry woman, I will listen to the entire album and love it every single time. Avril Lavigne, Gwen Stefani, Alanis Morissette.
How far back are we going?
Oh, dude,
Janis
fourth
Joplin.
grade. Well, I was,
Fourth grade.
oh man, I would listen to that and then like West Side Connection, which neither of you have ever listened
any
to.
angry woman album.
Oh, dude,
Gwen Stefani.
Pink
Yeah,
can jam,
is
dude.
good.
Pink
Yeah,
is
Pink
great.
good. She's got some pipes.
Pink is great. I would listen to that and then like Outkast and then Tupac and then go back to Avril. It's great.
Pink said I'm not
Skater
allowed
boy.
to listen to her records anymore.
Pink said that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Are we gonna go down that rabbit
No,
hole?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right.
We don't have to, but I'm not
That's on
allowed
another
to.
episode.
That's what she said.
We'll wait until you're hooked to drive you away. All right. 30-second synopsis of the book in question, The Storyteller. Or if you're Marcus, your 9-word within 30 seconds. I got to get my timer. I will cut you off. Rem, ready, set, and go.
All right. Dave Grohl, the storyteller, is just that. Dave telling stories from his past that kind of shaped who he became. And like I said before, I think the big part is the fact that he became so much more than a rock star. He became a symbol of art, I guess, within everything that he touched. And you can see by a, somewhat broken past how he really felt like he was fixing a lot of that through the way he was raising his family. One of my favorite chapters is talking about.
We'll never
flying
know
home.
because that's your 30 seconds.
That was 30
Marcus,
seconds?
That was 30 seconds.
Oh, man.
All right, Marcus.
First time I ever made it 30
Dave,
seconds.
Nine words in 30 seconds. Go.
Dave Grohl smokes weed and rocks your face off.
Ooh, nice.
I mean, that's it right there.
That is. That's fantastic.
That's every story.
It's gonna be written on his.
know.
It's gonna be
Dave
written on his tombstone.
Dave
for
would be
sure.
like, I wrote the whole book, and that's what.
Hey man,
Hey,
for a square like Marcus, that's how he perceived the book. Rem, okay. All right, let's do this. Okay,
for a
30 seconds.
Square.
Yeah, square.
I'm a square.
Okay, young boy, mother supportive, gets lucky in some aspects of many parts of his journey. Near death experiences, traveling with the band that didn't work out. Ends up being one of Kurt Cobain's best friends, and then starts a band that he's addicted to making perfect, that drives some away and drives the right people right near him. The end. All right.
Slam poetry.
You have
I
to
can't
do
get
every
enough
one
of
of yours
that.
in slam poetry.
That's the only way
You have
I
to.
know how to do it,
you
actually.
have to keep doing that.
All right, there's so much to dive into this book. Rem, how many you got the book? How many pages is this
The
book?
book is 370 pages.
You could have told me it was 700, and I would not have flinched. Like there's
371.
so much context. And what's our font size here? Are we talking?
Oh, this is at least 10 or 11.
Okay, so I mean, still normal. Okay.
I'm trying to see how many hours.
I
it
didn't have
is
to put on
listen
readers.
to.
Do you
I
guys
don't-
have readers?
I do not,
Nope.
but I got LASIK. Highly recommend it.
You have LASIK, and Marcus is being cocky about not having readers while he wears actual glasses.
You asked, "Do you have readers?" And I said, "Nope."
You have zero issues with reading
Size
books
of-
at this moment.
Well, obviously he listened to it, so we'll never know.
Can you read?
By the way, you
I
used
can
to
read
give me
just
crap
fine.
for listening to books. Just
You
I'm
were
just
a
gonna put that out there.
rhetoric
You were a
major
hater.
because you like to speak.
You
I
were
didn't
a
know-
hater on Audible, and look at you now. I'm so proud of you.
What if it
No,
never
I'm a
made
hater on
rhetoric
Audible.
majors read?
Never mind. Maybe Audible will sponsor us one day. I'm not going to say why I'm a hater on Audible.
You're a hater of Audible? You
No.
can't consume it and be a hater.
Well, look up who owns it right now. Who's the owner?
Of
I
Audible?
didn't.
can't.
I
My phone's
didn't
over there.
consume.
That'll tell
I
us-
didn't consume the book on Audible.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh,
It's
you
on
did Spotify.
Premium.
But
for
you will.
free.
It's
Do you not have
included.
Audible?
This is included on Spotify.
Yeah, I paid
Premium.
for it on Audible, included on Spotify Premium.
Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
included. Like, why would I not listen to it there? You have to buy the books when you get an Audible subscription. You still have to buy the
So
books.
how many books does
No,
Spotify have for
actually-
free?
A lot.
Do you own? Well, you can't own. You
Well,
can't.
no, it's not a certain amount. It's literally just it's.
where when it's streaming.
When I listen
Yeah.
to books, I do it either on Spotify or on like library apps, or I'll just buy
Dude,
them.
library apps are highly, highly, highly underrated. Actually, the library in general is one of the best ideas in the entire world, and none of us use it anymore because we have such easy access to buying our own books. I was describing what a library was to Willow, my oldest, the other day, and she's like, "That's awesome! Everybody just pays a little bit of money in taxes," and she didn't say the word taxes, but everybody just pays a little bit, and then we all get to use it, so we all don't have to have our own libraries at home. I'm like,
So you're raising
yeah,
a socialist.
that's really. I'm like, that's awesome. So we should all use the library more often.
I think you can listen to it in 12 hours or so.
Wow.
Oh, I
it's
do
about
time and a half.
I think it's
time
about
and a half to 2 on all of them.
Wow, that's aggressive.
Time and a half is aggressive.
Yeah, I can't do it. I need to listen to people's
I've
actual
listened to some
cadence.
very slow books.
The disadvantage to listening is I don't like obviously don't highlight or like take notes as well. But
I agree.
I will like pause it, send myself a text with like good quotes and stuff like that. But I do like reading it. But dude, for people that listening is so awesome.
I will say that this book,
Sure.
I will say, even if you've read this book, listen to this book because Dave Grohl telling these stories is unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's great.
Does he break from the script at all, or is he just reading it?
I don't know the answer to that, but
Oh, yeah.
it's awesome. And he includes music in it throughout.
So we need to get back into it. But do you know what I'm classic? I will read a book and I'll get excited about like that genre.
Yeah.
And so I'll read another one and then I'll confuse the stories. Like to this day, Bryan Cranston and Steve Martin, I don't know what happens in either one of their life. I get them confused because I read their biographies back to back.
Do you read multiple books at once?
Oh,
I do that too, but
I
now
do
I've
that.
learned not to do like similar ones. I'll have a fiction and a business.
this
and
gives
maybe
me a good
something
idea
else.
for one to do later
What's
on.
that?
I don't know. Never have your dog stuffed. It's Alan Alda's.
Ooh, I would
It's
totally
Alan
do
Alda's
Alden. I
autobiography.
Nice.
It's really good. Very funny.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
So we're finishing season 7 of West Wing, and he's just phenomenal.
He's he's great.
I also like Alan
I've-
Arkin.
I've been a big I've been a big MASH fan
I
for a
do
long
not
time.
remember actors and actresses' names. I don't know anyone's name.
I don't remember
He's the
their
guy from
characters.
MASH. Alan Aldo is the
Oh,
guy
okay.
from MASH.
Okay.
I don't
So
remember
wait,
the
who
main
does he
character.
play in West Wing?
He's
The
Hawkeye.
Republican,
Yeah.
the Republican candidate. He's against
In California?
Santos. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, I remembered that. I just don't remember. I do not remember.
I
their
can't
names.
ever remember the characters' names in any shows
all
or
I
movies and
remember.
things. But
I don't know
I
what's-
can always tell you the actors, but I can never tell you their names as characters. I'll watch
For
a
some
whole
reason,
season and
I
I'll be
feel
like,
a
I'll be
child.
Walt, can't think of it.
Disney.
Heisenberg.
Walt Disney.
Heisenberg.
Okay, so the reason I asked about how much was in the book is because when I look at the next question, which is what was relatable, holy cow! Like this is jam packed. This could be a trilogy. There's a lot to his life, and And I'm assuming.
Let's start with you for relatable though, because I feel like you resonated him with him more
Yeah.
than either of us.
I just feel like if I was writing an autobiography about myself, there are certain things that just won't make the book. We all have experiences in our life, with very few exceptions, that we're willing to completely let the whole world know about. This dude, there are so much in this book.
Like what would you, if it happened, what happened in the book that you would have not put in the book that you think was like embarrassing?
No,
Or just not worth sharing?
there's no specific example I thought of. I'm just saying, think about if there was no, think about what didn't make the book. There's got to be a list of things that like a publisher may have said like, hey, it's got to be around this many pages, or that's your next book or whatever. Like, it's just crazy to me. Okay. Lessons being a dad of young kids. He talked about his kids so much. I believe him playing at his daughter's school, but also her playing at the school, just the support, the dropping everything, being there. And like, while he is Dave Grohl, this rock star, whatever, like he's dad. And that was his priority in that moment was super, super cool.
So you're talking about when he flew back from Australia?
You talking about daddy-daughter dance?
No, I feel like there's I may be blending. He plays with his daughter for like a talent show at their school.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's super cool.
That was great.
Who was it? Some shady that didn't even attend his daughter's graduation because he didn't want to overshadow it. Like he was there, but he was in a different room because he didn't want.
I mean that's. I think you have to weigh that as a.
Grohl literally got on stage with his daughter. Some shady's in the classroom.
I think you got to know yourself. Like the other thing is, Dave Grohl probably isn't as easily. Dude, Eminem's a whole different.
He's a
recognizable, different fan. But like Dave Grohl,
everyone in Detroit, if Eminem's kids graduated in anywhere near Detroit,
I would argue to say anywhere in the Midwest. I mean,
I'm just saying like they're fanatic about him, whereas
Dave
Grohl's out in L.A.
He's in a band.
There's a million stars. His kids are going to a private school.
He's not as recognizable even at his height as you.
I just disagree.
Man,
I just disagree.
Okay, so
no one was bigger than Nirvana.
This is the Michael Jordan example. Grandmas that don't even watch basketball knew who Michael Jordan was. I would argue moms who don't even listen to rap know what Eminem looks like. A mom that doesn't listen to metal does not know what Dave Grohl looks like.
I mean, but that doesn't change the fact that both of them will be mauled if they show up to a graduation.
I don't think.
Right,
I don't think it's the same.
Keep telling us what's relatable.
Well, I think that
that's totally relatable. Brett doesn't go to graduations. He's afraid of being mauled.
Yeah,
man. I have to call my girl's school ahead of time.
Oh, that's the Cutco guy.
You've sent me 48 text messages. You will give up.
Did I get a letter from you in the mail? Your name sounds so familiar.
I laughed hard at the stories of the band he was a part of traveling to and from Detroit, leaving the money. To your point, I remembered so many different Cutco road trips of making stupid decisions, leaving stuff somewhere. The amount of times that it could have been an absolutely horrible mistake and things just worked out.
That was so nostalgic for me too. And I think we can all relate because we all did it together.
I think anybody who's probably maybe played sports, been in a fraternity or sorority, like you do, those are things that you do.
Oh, me and a pledge brother. This is first semester. I'm a freshman in the fraternity. I'm a pledge, and one of the seniors comes into study hall on a Monday night. Right? He's like, "Who doesn't have class tomorrow?" 4 of us raise our hands. 2 of the 4 that raise our hands are actually getting good grades, right? And they feel like they can trust. He says, "Okay, I stole this composite." So the composites are those massive pictures that have like all the girls or all the pictures of the guys in the fraternity or the girls in the sorority. "I stole this composite from the Tridelt house at Vanderbilt, and I need you guys to take it back. Vanderbilt's like 7 hours away. So we get in to a different fraternity brothers van at like 11 o'clock at night and drive through the night to Vanderbilt. Like the stories that come out of these things,
Yes.
The pure like freedom of the time. And then my mom didn't have any idea that we went to Nashville and back until like 2 days later.
And
that was the best.
All of these stories have in common, like at least from the stories that we've told and the stories that happened, we didn't have any money.
No money.
I feel like when you have money, that's when these stories happen because you're forced to just like figure it out,
be creative,
and then hilarity ensues. Like,
yeah.
So another part of the story, you bringing up money made me think of the bag of cash. There was a guy in the band, and I can't remember the name of the band when they were traveling through the Midwest. In the
first band.
I want to say it was
Scream.
Was it? Okay, it was Scream. There's a guy who had been in that band in forever. He was gonna die a member of this band.
Yeah.
It was past his time. He was just there, and I remember thinking, I can remember of every work environment I've been a part of, there's been a guy or girl like that who has worked there since they've been 18 and they're going to work there till they're 50 something. And I just remember thinking, I never want to be that guy or that girl that just there's literally roots growing, holding you there for like hanging out with these young kids, being the responsible one. And I guess if you're in that position as a mentor or leader or whatever, cool, but just rotting away
if
like
you're
that.
Still doing the exact same thing
30 years later, yeah. And then the last part that was relatable, you brought up, was making the decision to Australia, back to daddy-daughter dance, back to Australia, overnight, no sleep.
Ugh.
So Dave, you guys fill in the blanks. I believe his tour manager is Dave says the date of this daddy-daughter dance. He's like, I have to go. And the tour manager's like, dude, we're in Australia. That day we have shows, back-to-back nights. And
they already sold out.
They already sold out. He can't. He's like, here's your options, basically. You can move it. Dave doesn't want to move it. He doesn't want to disappoint all these fans.
And the thing is, he had already told his daughter he would never miss the dance. That's why it wasn't like,
he had to be there.
So I think there are moments. I believe in rhythm versus balance of life, where it's like, I think there are times of the year where it makes sense for me to have conversations with my family of like, this is where we're going to make hay these next couple of months. And then the other 9 months of the year, I'll do whatever I want. But like these 3 months, like it makes sense for me to double down on work. And then there's times of the year where it's like, there's so many events for our family that I tell work, like, I'm like, hey guys, I need you to step up as staff and I'm not going to be available. Here's why though. I'm really invested in my family right now. So I can really have that flexibility in April, May, and June when I'm really busy. And there are moments where you have this tension in life where you either have to make a really, really, really hard decision or you got to play hurt and suck it up.
Yeah.
And dude, we've all had to just suck it up.
Yep.
And my sucking it up is way different than vomiting for 12 hours straight on a flight.
His sucking
that
it up.
flight back.
No, he never actually vomited. That's the worst part.
Dry heaving. He was dry heaving.
Yeah, I mean, he had food poisoning from fish that he ate on the plane.
No. It was the salad at the daddy-daughter dance.
Really?
Yeah. It was the salad at the daddy-daughter dance because he
Salmonella
said,
was
so
just...
he flew back, it gets there, he's like, they had rabbit food and sugar, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna eat the salad, right? And he gets on the plane, he's like, oh no.
Yeah.
And he's got to fly all the way back to Australia. Gets to Australia. They're pumping him full of like the IV and everything else. He gets backstage where at some point we've got to talk about their backstage, like going on to the concert ritual, but gets backstage, slams a couple of beers, and he's like, let's go.
Look at the adrenaline.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, and I hate that. Like being sick on a plane is the worst.
Yep.
That's why I have to sit in the front of the wings now because of like a bad flight I took to Seattle. Like I can't imagine 12 hours knowing that you have the rest of the flight to just And
it's a really good self-created excuse to justify business class or better every
that
flight.
what it is?
That's amazing.
It's
That's
100%
great.
true.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I'm
be
just,
like, hey, Riley,
I can't get sick. I
It's
gotta spend
100%
we
this
can't,
extra
we
money.
can't take that trip to Disney this year because I actually paid for business class on every flight in 2024.
That's where all my points go.
Yeah, so that would be, I mean, those would be for me. Tons of laughs. I can't. You guys are going to bring up something that maybe made you cry or something during that will trigger me, but those are the main ones for me, relatable wise. Yeah.
I got a whole section,
Dude, go for it.
that's relatable that kind of goes along with. Do we still do quotes? Like, what are the quotes?
Best
This
quotes.
is actually like a quote straight from the book. So this is what he says. He says, "This was the first day of the rest of my life. Upon closer inspection, I noticed one glaring difference from all of the typical classic rock albums that I owned at home. None of these albums were from any record companies I had ever heard of.
Yeah.
On the contrary, most of them practically look homemade. They featured Xerox covers with dark, pixelated photos, handwritten lyrics and credits, silk screen logos, and I go down a little bit farther. These people were doing it themselves," Tracy explained. "I was entranced, awakened, and inspired." And so, like, you can see he's already decent. Now
This
he talks about...
this is him with, I believe, his
This is
cousin
before-
in Seattle.
This is no,
right?
Chicago. They're in
He-
Chicago.
He's beginning to be.
She's letting him listen to, like, different types of music that he hasn't been exposed to before.
He's really young. He's
super
like
young,
11
but
or
he's super
12.
into drumming. And he drums in class, remember,
With his
his
teeth.
teeth.
Yep.
By just, like...
Yep.
Like keeping the beat with his teeth in class. And so, like, I love rags to riches stories.
Yeah.
Like, no matter what it's about or where it starts, like, even if it's small, like, this is a rags to riches story where you can talk from any angle about, like, the creative genius that he became when he realized you can just do it yourself. My life was changed forever when I realized I didn't have to follow a certain path. Like, if I feel led to create, I can just do it. And it just opened up his world. Like, I can, that more than anything about this book resonated with me.
Yeah. That's really good. For me, I agree with a couple of the things you guys have said. I don't know if it's worth hitting on more, but when he talks at the beginning about it being like in the blood, or I can't remember, what's that chapter titled? DNA doesn't lie. Yeah, it's right in the introduction, or the next one. DNA doesn't lie, and he talks about his daughter coming to him and saying that she wants to play the drums, and I think that this is getting more clear to me as my oldest kids get older, but it's funny because if you look at pictures of like my dad playing basketball, he'll always have like his tongue slightly outer in his cheek. And this is something that I do and I've done forever. And this is something that our kids, like especially the boys, when they crawl, they'll all do that. And they'll like stick
That's
their
wild.
tongue out. And
Because it's not like they're watching you do it.
No.
Like, isn't that wild?
But then, certain things, certain ways in which I really get excited. Like I love to like practice. Like I always wanted to go out and play catch with my mom. So before any kids would wake up, my mom and I would go out and play catch, and we would work on things, and we would drill and drill and drill. And like I see that in my oldest two girls, right? As they're getting older, is like it's constantly like I don't want to force them to want to do it, but they're coming to me and asking me to do it. And I love kind of fostering that. And it's neat because if you wait for them to come to you to ask, kind of like he was like, I knew it was coming, but when it came, and then I was like, well, you want me to teach you how to play drums? It's like, you want me to help you with this? Awesome, And
the thing about Dave is like you already touched on the fact that he was recording an album and he didn't like the way the drummer was playing it, so then he re-recorded it the way, and then he didn't like the way that anything, so he literally just played all the parts himself, re-recorded it, and then launched it as a Foo Fighters album. and it was better than what they would have created otherwise. And in that moment, that was more important to him that they put out the best thing that they could possibly put out than hurting others' feelings because of the excellence that he required of the music. And if he's teaching his daughter how to drum now, he's not going to be like, well, play those notes however you want. Like, he's going to be on it because he sees what excellence can become.
Well, and what's cool is that my daughter doesn't play like she doesn't play year round. She doesn't play travel. She doesn't do all those things. But what we do is we play catch a lot. And we're to the point where I can whip that ball at her. And the pitcher that we've got on her team is one of the best pitchers, and nobody wants to catch her that's on the team. And apparently the coach's wife was talking to her, was like, well, you got to let somebody try because you can't just not let her pitch, It's the coach's daughter is the pitcher, and he's like, well, the only one that I would let trust, the only one that I would trust is Colby if she wants to do it. And they asked Colby, and she said she would do it, and she went out there tonight and just
dude, she
caught
needs to lean
them
hard.
caught
I'm telling
them all.
you, catcher is the hardest position to find at that level. Like, she will be valued, have a spot.
100%.
Oh, dude,
they literally are already asking her to play more. It's
let alone being good at it. Just being willing to do it.
Yeah.
Two things. Number one, you said play catch versus have a catch. I'm so happy because I've heard people say have a catch, and I want to throw things.
Have a catch?
Let's go have a catch. They literally say, let's go have a catch.
I don't get that.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Number one. Number two, Rem, you brought up something. So you talked about him re-recording. This is a conundrum for me. And I guess anybody who gets successful at the level Dave Grohl is, they're addicted to perfection. I think they have some control issues. Do you feel like him looking back? Because what happens throughout the book too, he kind of over commits his life to a new album. Yeah. And he starts drinking, I think it's something like 8
absurd amount of coffee.
An absurd amount.
Well, because he's doing like 3 different bands, right? At the same time.
Instead of saying no to anything, he's got his young kids at home. He's sleeping 3 hours a night.
Yeah.
He goes to the doctor. There's something wrong with his.
Well, he's like a panic attack.
Yeah. I just.
It's like a nervous breakdown.
Would he, even though that made that album, whatever it was, do you think looking back he would change his wanting to control it so much versus do you think he would change any of it? Do you think or do you think he would go back and go, wow, what an idiot?
Yeah, I don't know that anyone is a glutton for pain. I think just from what you would read, I think he would still want the same results of what came from the album, but he would try to figure out a way where he didn't have to kill himself over it.
Yeah.
I think he kind of answers that too. Throughout the book, he talks multiple times about how he wants to essentially live in the moment, and he wants to collect all of these memories. I think saying, "Oh, I would have done it different" for Dave specifically, at least kind of trying to get into his mind here a little bit. I think he wouldn't say he would do it different. I think he said, "Hey, I had to do it that way in order to learn and to grow."
Yeah.
Because that
would he
kind
be
of
right about that?
Huh?
Would he be right about that?
Listen, I'm a very big fan personally of learning from other people's mistakes.
I would also say I think there are many moments in this where he's actually describing an experience with God, and he doesn't know he's describing that, or he's not aware, or maybe he doesn't want to lean into that too far or whatever. I think that there's many moments where he is learning certain things through that he's just not recognizing maybe. And I think maybe with that perspective, he might answer a little bit differently, that question.
Maybe. Yeah.
Anything to add? Relatable? You're gonna have
it's
to
hard.
that
I think
eventually.
it's hard. In a lot of ways, I think it's hard to relate to somebody that's experienced that level of success and fame within their given given field. But
you know what though? Those are the people that inspire.
It's very inspiring for sure.
So like when he breaks his leg, right? And this is something that
Yes.
a lot of people probably know
Yes.
without even reading the book. But he broke his leg. He fell off stage.
Did he fall? I feel
Fell
like
off
he
stage
jumped.
I feel like he jumped. Like it was adrenaline. He
Yeah,
jumped.
he jumped.
and broke his leg.
Yeah.
So he broke his leg.
Dislocated
like-
his ankle and broke his leg.
Literally goes to the hospital.
That story is so good.
Gets a splint and comes back to the concert.
No.
No. A doctor was in the crowd.
Yeah, no. The doctor came back. He didn't go to the hospital afterwards. This part of the story
is backstage.
Is awesome. This is backstage.
Yeah.
The doctor says you dislocated your ankle. I've got to put it back in, right? And then he says, "Well, can I go out?" And then so he does that, and the doctor's holding on to it, and they get the splint because his femur was broken as well. And then he says, "Well, I want to go back out there, right?" And they were covering under pressure at the time. He's like, "Well, I want to go back. Can I sit on a chair?"
Yep.
And the doctor says, "Well, if I let go of your ankle, it's gonna fall. It's like gonna fall off." And then he basically says, "Well, you're coming with me, mother effer." Like he's like in a moment of pure adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like that's what he says. And like I knew about that story, but hearing Dave Grohl describe that story was
I
awesome.
didn't know he
Yeah.
had somebody.
And
up
he
there
didn't go back
Yeah.
and have surgery until after. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean that. So I'm confusing stories because he went to the hospital. I mean, he went to the hospital a lot. This
A
dude's
lot in
As a
this
kid,
book. A lot
as
in this
a
book.
grown up, as
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
But like the show must go on. Like comes from people like Dave, right? And
Yes.
So like when you're thinking about, I mean, what resonates with you. For most of us, I mean, for most of the people in America that are working whatever a normal job is, like it's okay to pull inspiration from people like Dave who are like, the
Yeah.
show must go on. Like
So easy to root for, so easy to be a
Yeah.
fan of, because you know he's like selling
He's doing
out.
it for
He's
other
like,
people.
He does not want to let all those people
he's
down.
doing it for other
100%.
people.
He
Luke
wants to
Combs
give
just
to
said
them.
this a couple weeks ago. He got like laryngitis or something like that, and he gets on stage and he can barely like talk. And he's like, "Hey, we're gonna return all your money, but we're still gonna do the show,
Oh.
and then we're gonna come back when you can actually see the good
Yeah.
show." I mean, it's awesome,
Dude, and not just that, like how that will come back to him tenfold. Not the reason he did it,
Right.
but like people.
Just that perspective.
Oh my gosh, for sure.
Well, you can tell that Dave wants to give and share that part of his soul that comes out in his music. And he sees himself as a storyteller through that music.
Mhm.
And he tells these stories of when he was mostly like 10, 11, 12, 13. Like the story from when he goes in and sees the AC/DC movie,
Mhm.
and he's impacted for the first time. You can tell that he wants other people to be impacted.
You know how they
in
say
the same way.
never meet your heroes. I bet he's one that wouldn't be a letdown.
Yeah, I don't think he would be.
Never meet your heroes because you meet them and
Yep.
it's just like, they're not. I mean, I think he'd probably be a better experience than.
So speaking,
He
of,
seems very humble through the book, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
for
I think
sure.
that's almost what it would have to be like to meet your hero. Is like you meet your hero and then you're kind of like, you're not that cool. You're trying to be really cool.
Well, he describes that he gets invited to. It's like a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame something,
Yep.
and
Well,
he
it's the
sees
Grammys, right?
He doesn't
Is this the
name-
dinner?
He doesn't. No. Well, I don't think so. It's backstage, and there's a couple of people invited to. And he doesn't say the artist's name, but he said there's this dude who is like on stage one thing, and then backstage he's just completely fake. He's living this fake life that is this rocker, and it was early in his career, I believe. And
Are
he
you talking about
decides-
the intro that I read earlier?
Oh, maybe,
off
yes.
off camera.
Yes.
Oh yeah, the intro
And he
is
realizes
incredible.
I don't want to be that guy. Like,
Yeah.
that's not who I want to be.
That's not what I
There's
Um,
two guys, and he sees the other
yes.
one that's like grizzled.
Yes.
And
yes.
yeah.
Yes. I wonder if he's ever slipped and said who he was talking about.
Oh, I'm sure he would. I mean, he's not gonna do it in a book, but
Right.
he's definitely told the story to somebody. And you,
Meeting.
By the way, best introduction, like one of the best introductions to any book that I've read. Like it hooks you immediately.
One of my
I
favorite.
dare you to read this introduction and not read
Not
the
read
rest
the
of the
book,
book.
yeah.
that and Rhythm of Life. Rhythm of Life is probably my favorite. favorite intro of all time. You said meeting your heroes, dude. This is one of my hidden gems. Paul McCartney.
Yeah.
Him and,
Like
him and Paul being like great
they're like
friends.
best friends. Yeah, they're like kids. He like they call him. I don't know if they probably call him Uncle Paul. Like I that was
They do like they don't know.
so
that he's
randomly
Paul
dropped.
McCartney.
So like, what are you talking about? The story about the New Orleans band. For him.
The whole AC/DC Paul McCartney
man.
dinner is awesome.
So there's a dinner. It's post what?
Grammys.
It's
I
post
think.
Grammys, we believe. They're in New Orleans.
No, I don't think so. I think it's in LA.
Is it in LA?
Yeah,
why was it?
No,
in,
it's on Bourbon Street.
It's on Bourbon Street. Yeah, it was a New Orleans
It's on Bourbon
band.
Street. It was a New Orleans jazz band.
I know that the New Orleans jazz band comes in, but they had come into town.
Let him tell the story.
This is one of the chapters, so we can look it up.
So you guys are looking this up. So after an event, Dave has AC/DC and Paul McCartney. They're getting all this worked out to where it is perfectly timed that when they sit down in this restaurant, this New Orleans jazz band walks in, and he
starts the chapter
Go ahead.
the quote. The chapter starts with the quote, "Do you mind if AC/DC comes to dinner?"
yeah,
because he already has
because that's
dinner
the text
already-
that his wife Jordan sends to
He's
him.
trying to, he's already friends with Paul McCartney at this point, so
Yeah.
they're probably just looking for like a nice little.
Yeah, but the way then he goes into such detail about
This
how much
chapter is
AC/DC meant to him.
Oh yeah.
Like it's such an incredible, because even him at that point in his career, being best friends with Paul McCartney, had never really hung out with AC/DC, and he's kind of like fangirling. A little bit, You know, like he's like, well, yeah.
Which is interesting to think about, like, because you hear people, like, I'll listen to a podcast or see a clip or, just as an interview of someone that I think once you hit a certain point, you can literally meet anyone you want to
Totally.
meet. But yet they still are, like, they're human. Like, they, for whatever reason, they haven't reached out. It hasn't presented itself. They maybe, have, I mean, I don't want to speak for Dave. This probably isn't Dave, but, like, if you feel like you're unworthy or whatever,
Yeah.
and you don't do it, and then you get that fanboy, fangirl opportunity.
So there was a moment, I think, was it Elton John in the car, and he passed them, and Dave was like, I think that was Elton John.
Yes.
And he literally, Elton John stops the car, gets out, and walks by to like meet Dave and shake his hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like another example of like, okay, like there's some really good real dudes out there for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so chapter, anything else to share on the new
Well, was it?
that chapter
Where
is
was it?
awesome.
Where was it? By the way, was
First
it?
of all, are you saying Elton John is a really good real dude?
By the way,
we could
I was
cover
gonna
that.
leave
We
it.
could
I was
cover.
gonna leave
We could
it.
cover that movie sometime. By the way, that was
Rocket
an
Man?
interesting movie.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
I was gonna leave it. You brought it back. I was gonna leave it. I was gonna let it, die.
It was the Grammys. Where was it? Was the Grammys, right? Where was the Grammys? It's got to be in the
Oh,
first
you guys
two
are making me look
pages.
up, but like, just look up the AC/DC chapter 291.
fine.
Like we'll leave that for the reader because
Oh
that is
man,
just such
that's a great
chapter.
chapter.
Incredible.
It's awesome. The way it works out is perfect, and I feel like everybody involved was so thankful. And it sounds like it was just one of those nights. I don't know if you've ever been to a dinner with, I don't know, a large group of your closest friends, and you don't want it to end.
Yeah.
Like you're just
Yeah.
you're eating dinner,
Oh,
but
yeah.
then it's like another round, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, it's like what?
Or if you're rooming with Marcus and he doesn't want the night to end.
It doesn't end.
Stop talking.
It doesn't end.
But it will typically be a very important, deep philosophical question that you can't go to bed on. You can't. Or he'll share his side, and you will strongly disagree, and you'll be like, "Well, I'm not.
Wait, are we on
I'm not
Marcus
going
still?
to bet on that. I'm not going to bet on that one."
One more hidden,
I can't
hidden
imagine
gem.
someone disagreeing with me.
Hidden gem before you move on. So when he talks about Nirvana, like you can almost tell like he's writing in a way where I know you guys are going to ask, so I'm going to go ahead and share this about
Yeah.
Nirvana
Yep.
because that period of his life was so defined by Nirvana.
And it was so fast.
It was so fast. They
Yep.
hit it big. Like within the time that he moved up to Seattle, they launched an album within months and were the biggest band in a year.
Yeah.
And then in a couple more years, he's dead.
Right.
And he's gone.
Kurt's dead.
Kurt's dead. So yeah, obviously not Dave because he wouldn't have been able to write this book.
I'm just making, for everyone out there. If they don't know that
Spoiler alert. Kurt Cobain died.
Dave lives too.
Dave lived.
It's a really sad and passionate chapter though, because he's talking about like it almost happens one time.
Yeah.
And he I think he's overseas, he flies back, he's like, okay, Kurt's okay, this is just Kurt. He goes through these phases where he gets depressed and hurts himself, and then the second time he actually takes his own life, and that Dave thinks about leaving music. He goes back to another band, and what's funny is this band that he keeps going back to is like, it's never a big band like Scream or the other band. Like he just loves playing with the guys. He doesn't care about the money. He doesn't care about anything other than playing the music. He wants to play with these guys. It's just, that's pretty cool. And then it leads to what becomes the Foo Fighters. But so when he talks about it, he's very open about it. But he's definitely very sad and regretful.
I think you described it really, really well of it being fast. I think his I think his relationship with Kurt was deeper than maybe even he. I got the sense that it was like that really, really, really messed with him and hurt him. And maybe it's also tough. But to your point, I definitely have moments where I'm like, oh, he's putting this in because he feels like he has to.
Right. Well, so if you watch, he was on Howard Stern playing My Hero live when it first came out. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, oh, that's about Kurt. He's like, I didn't really write it about Kurt. And like everyone's like trying to figure out the mind of Dave post Kurt Cobain. Yeah. And I think in his efforts to just be like, stop trying to figure me out. Yeah. He doesn't even know. Like he doesn't. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's just my observation.
Hidden gems, Marcus. Anything left?
Do we have a quotable? Is there like a?
Oh yeah, best quotes. You can lead right into it if you got a best quote.
Well, it's right after that. But when he talks about the reason that like he's got a very addictive personality, and he says that the reason why he never tried heroin. Do you guys remember this?
Yes. This is a PG-13 podcast.
I know. That's why I can't. There's a hilarious quote in this book as to why Dave Grohl never tried heroin, and it is probably the most quotable quote in the whole book.
You need to get the audible version of the book just to hear Dave say
100%.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. This is a listen to. This is
you have to listen. 100%.
I am jealous. There's certain books that I read and listen to that one.
So that one, that one just sticks out like a sore thumb. The other thing is I hit on this, but man, there's about 4 or 5 different lines in the introduction to this book that are extremely quotable. And just from a writing perspective, I love the way that he just goes into such detail.
Yeah, if you're,
he is an incredible writer.
And the way he writes and leaves you wondering what the next sentence is going to be. Like it's like it's such good storytelling that you can't wait to read the next sentence to see how he pieces it together. Like it truly is an art. So for him to call it, he knows what he's got.
100%.
He called it Storyteller.
The amount of times that I smiled just because I read the sentence and I was like, what a well-crafted sentence is
that's a rhetoric major right there.
It's just really well done. Like it's so enjoyable.
It was so entertaining.
So entertaining.
There were many times where I had to stop and go, dude, that was very, very well put. Like I'm thinking about that. Quotes. You just shared one. One that I had.
Well, I kind of shared one. I can't. I can't share it.
You shared an idea.
Yeah.
After all, you are only as happy as your unhappiest child. Like, ain't that the truth? That is so. Like, man, one of my kids is struggling. It's hard to function. It's hard to do anything else. Like.
We've got 15 kids between the three of us. Did you? 15 kids. Yeah, we get that.
I can't believe I
so
almost
we're
caught
never
you.
happy?
I can't believe I almost caught you.
So we're never happy?
I don't know. I feel pretty happy right now. They're all in bed.
To get within one. I feel like I did win, actually.
You feel like you won because you almost caught me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What? Should have never happened. And we did it in...
One
by the
pass,
way, way more impressive. We did it in 6 years.
That's more impressive for sure.
Yeah.
No, what's more impressive is he did it in 4 pregnancies.
Also, shout out Riley. That's important.
Yeah, never mind.
More quotes. It's hard when I listen to the audio. I'm not stopping and taking notes enough. For me, it's more awesome moments. Rem, anything for you in reading quotes wise?
That was the biggest quote that I have to take away.
Okay.
Honestly, his quotes aren't like one sentence quotes; they're paragraph quotes.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like ideas. Like it's a worthwhile read.
Oh, we still got to
way
rate
around.
it.
Oh yeah, we got a rating. We do 1 to 9. We do ask 9 questions after all. What is your rating of this? I'm confidently saying, and by the way, my Remember the Titans rating, I feel like Rem was
appalled.
perplexed. For me,
appalled.
this is the easiest rating. 9. This is a 9. This is a 9 for me. This is a must read. Loved it.
Yeah, it's an 8 for me. Not because it's awesome. I just hold books very just like movies. Like Remember Titans was a cheat code for us because like it literally is my one of my top 3
all of our
time.
favorites.
Yep.
Yeah,
This is up there. I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
I think there are more books that are 9s than movies.
Really.
Like books are, I don't know. I think
Books.
there's
did we talk
so
about this already?
many
Like,
great books.
Books. The reason why it's important to have your kids read fiction. Did we talk about this? Because
No.
it teaches empathy. It causes them to create the characters, to be put themselves into the character's mind so that they can understand what's going on around them. And so when you read a book, it's different than watching a movie. The movie tells you what the characters look like. When you're a book, you're making that happen for yourself. And that you can even say that, like, I mean, there's so much more details that happen in the book. But anyway, so yeah, 8.
Well, I think one of the reasons to read autobiographies, right, which this is that it can inspire you in different ways. It can inspire you. It can it can also open up just completely new worlds. You know, I don't actually agree with Dave Grohl's worldview in a lot of ways, but I find him as a fascinating human and somebody that can teach us a lot about what it means to be human. You know, so all that being said, I highly recommend this book. If you're a teenager or something, I don't know, I think you could probably read it, as a teenager. But I would go.
But yeah, with that caution tape, I mean, none of us subscribe to his worldview. I mean, definitely struggling with what he believes the universe or God is.
Or what it's about, or like manifesting different things. I wouldn't subscribe to that, but I think that just in terms of getting into the mind of somebody who's done it at the highest level, right? Hearing all of the different stories, understanding, what that took, understanding how long he just was grinding and was penniless, like not like is worse than paycheck to paycheck. He talked about
when he first got out to LA.
About even when he was like as they were doing all of the Nirvana stuff, he was literally starving, and he could go and buy like 3 corn dogs and eat one. And
no, even worse, the girl. What was the girl's house he stayed at? Was it in LA?
There was like a mud wrestler or something like that.
Yeah, she was like a semi-pro mud wrestler. And then got the there's so many stories like that.
Like so many.
By the way,
but the grinding and grinding and grinding. So all that being said, I think there's a ton to learn. I think he's a fascinating human. It was really cool to listen to. I would go 7.8 is what I would go, which is high for me. That's high for me.
If it was ever made into a movie.
It definitely is made.
Definitely moments that are Netflix and chill worthy.
Yeah.
So I will say this too, from the us not lining up necessarily with his worldview or whatever, dude. He's just a good dude, and my heart goes out to good dudes who don't know there's more stuff out there yet. Because I was that good dude for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
I loved it. What's next?
What is next?
We didn't decide yet, did we?
Oh,
The book. A book.
I mean, I want to do a movie next.
yeah. Oh, movie.
Well, so what's coming up? We've got The Patriot is on the docket.
I think.
I love that movie.
So Patriot, I need to watch.
You've never seen it?
Never seen it.
Oh,
Dude,
Riley
get
would like
ready.
that movie.
So I think we commit.
Get
I think we
ready.
commit right now. Patriot.
I mean,
Patriot.
Is how much?
What's
how much gore? How much blood?
Oh,
That's her big.
10 out of 10.
Ah,
Gore.
dude, she can't.
it's not 10
She's
out
seen
of 10.
it. Riley's seen
It is not
Definitely not Netflix and chill. Then.
It is not 10 out of 10. It's not 10 out of 10 gore. It's not Quentin Tarantino.
Riley-
It is 10 out of 10 gore.
No.
Oh, for
If
sure.
it's- by the way, if
the
it's
moments,
fi-
the
if it's-
moments are. I
if
mean,
it's
dude, they're
5 out of
getting
10 or
heads and
higher.
limbs blown off. It's like intimate gore too, like the way he like.
People are gonna
just
die. Are you
get ready.
spoiling it for me?
I used to
It's
think. I mean, now
People are going to die
okay,
in the
so like if you're comparing
Revolutionary War?
if you're comparing it to like Tarantino, I
It's
understand.
very
why you're
bold
not-
of you to think I know what the Revolutionary War is, Marcus. I went to public school.
What do you-
dropped out of college?
What did you know? What did you know about this movie going into it?
What did I know? I
Heath
know that
Heath Ledger-
Tom
not
Brady's the
alive.
best one that ever lived. Bill Belichick's the coach.
Oh, geez.
They had a stout defense that didn't get enough credit.
Are we signing out yet?
Okay, tune in for The Patriot.
All right, yeah, Patriot next. The cover done.